Because we're making a call in Iowa, in the Hawkeye state. CNN declares that Al Gore has won Iowa's 7 electoral votes. When we last reported, this was how the electoral map looked, but now if you add Iowa's 7, Mr. Gore now has gone back on top. The vice president with 249 electoral votes to Governor Bush's 246.
And we can now say with absolute certainty, I believe, that unless one of these states that we've called changes, whoever wins Florida will be the next president of the United States.
That's right.
And the states still outstanding: Florida, 25 electoral votes. Here you see it. Oregon, 7 electoral votes. And the Badger State, Wisconsin, 11 electoral votes. George Bush, governor of Texas, will become the 43rd president of the United States. At 18 minutes past 2 o'clock Eastern Time, CNN declares that George Walker Bush has won Florida's 25 electoral votes, and this should put him over the top.
That's right, Bernie. With Florida, he gets 271 electoral votes, one more than he needs. What happens in Oregon and Wisconsin now becomes irrelevant unless by some remarkable miracle some state changes course. This was the closest election, electorally it looks like, perhaps in this century. Yes. But George Bush has been declared by CNN the next president of the United States.
And if Al Gore takes Wisconsin and Oregon, he will win by 1 electoral vote. That's only happened once that I know of, and that was 1876.
George Walker Bush, the second son of a president to be elected president in his own right, coming after John Quincy Adams, who ran, almost 200 years ago.
And one person in the Bush family who's taken this hardest, this cliffhanger atmosphere, has been George Herbert Walker Bush.
Yes.
He has been just so uptight these past couple weeks and these past few days, the last few hours.
You could see it earlier tonight, you know, when we went up to the hotel suite, and he was sitting there, Governor Bush was sitting there with his wife and with his mother Barbara and his father, the president. The President George Bush looked very worried at that moment.
I think anybody who's a parent knows that you suffer more with the travails of your children than you do for your own. In 1992, George Bush was defeated by Bill Clinton. There are those who believe that that defeat rankled. How could the man who led us to the Gulf War be ousted by a governor of Arkansas? And in this sense, George Walker Bush may represent a kind of restoration. He has defeated the man Bill Clinton wanted to be his heir in the White House. Once again, a vice president of the United States fails of election, but once again, just as with Nixon in 60 and 68, by the closest of margins.
Now, what's interesting about this victory is, of course, that the times in the country are good. We've got peace, we've got prosperity, the crime rate is down. People very strongly approve the job the incumbent Democratic president is doing, and all the forecasting models said it should have been an easy win for Al Gore. Bush has won by a very narrow margin, but yet he beat very serious odds to win this election. And I think Bill Clinton's problems have a lot to do with it.
No question about this. This is absolute redemption for the former President Bush. You remember this summer he talked about the fact that if the Democrats and Clinton got too personal in their criticism, he, former President Bush, would come out and start saying things. And very so subtly, early on in the campaign, Governor Bush talked about restoring dignity and to the White House, and in the last 72 hours you've heard that theme again, Jeff.
Pause for one other second. Think of the two men who have run tonight on their 40th birthdays. Al Gore, United States Senator, having run for president. George Bush, a businessman who woke up on his 40th birthday and decided to give up drinking. Al Gore, 24 years in Washington. George Walker Bush, the son who was not supposed to even be in public life, and he is tonight elected president.
Just 5 years ago, he was the managing partner of the Texas Rangers baseball team. And then he was elected governor of the state of Texas. He gave up running a baseball team in order to run a state. And, you know, much has been made of the fact that Texas has a weak governor system. This is not a governor with a great deal of power in his own right. That well may be, but it's a state with a lot of people. He turned out to be a very popular governor in that state, and the Republican eyes across this country have been on him literally since the day he was elected governor, took office, I should say, in 1995.
That's right, and he's going to go to Washington with a Republican House of Representatives. Right now, the Senate has not been decided, but he may have a Republican Senate, which means that for the first time in almost 50 years, we could have a situation where the Republicans control the Senate, the House of Representatives, and the White House. Let's just be careful about that, because irrational exuberance could take over.
Candy Crowley is in Victory City, Austin, Texas.
Bernie, I got to tell you that this crowd outside the Austin State House, you were looking at the diehards here. This crowd was about twice as big earlier in the evening. I have to tell you, it has been pouring rain. It is cold enough to see your breath in Austin, Texas. I was in Green Bay yesterday, and it was warmer there than it is here this evening. This crowd has been rained on. They have cheered every state that went for Bush. They have gone through every emotion known to man. They had, a time when it looked like they'd lost Florida, and, it seemed to swing sort of towards the vice president. The crowd got very quiet. Florida was put back into play, and from then on, every single state that went, they cheered. So you are looking at diehard Bush fans. It's good to come home when this sort of thing happens, because you've got a crowd like this that'll still wait up for you. We are told that as of yet, George Bush has no reaction. We do know that he has been spending this evening in the governor's mansion with his brother Jeb, his father, his mother, while they have been watching the events unfold. We were told at one point the atmosphere was nervous, but we have been told all along that George Bush was feeling serene about the race he ran, that whatever happened, he felt that his campaign gave it a good go. Tonight, again, you are looking at Austin, some of them who have been waiting here literally for 9 and 10 hours to see their favorite son make good, and it looks like they have. You see that sign? Thanks, Jeb. I have to tell you, Jeb was as I said, in the governor's mansion with Governor Bush tonight, the two governors Bush. George Bush had been saying along the campaign trail for the last couple of weeks, well, if I don't win Florida, that Thanksgiving turkey is going to be pretty cold. So Thanksgiving dinner apparently is safe now for Jeb Bush. He can join the family in Kennebunkport, no doubt. This has got to be an incredible moment for that family.
Well, and what may make it even sweeter, Candy, is that we can report to you that it's a trifecta tonight. The Republicans, CNN is calling that the Republicans do retain control of the United States Senate based on victory, we're calling, in Montana for the incumbent Republican, Senator Conrad Burns. The challenger, Brian Schweitzer, he has set back the Democrat. This is, as Bill Schneider's been pointing out throughout the evening, the last time when the Republicans ended up in control of the White House, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. Dwight Eisenhower was in the White House. It was 1952. They then subsequently lost control of the House and the Senate 2 years later, but for 2 years, they had all three.
And now they've controlled the House and Senate since the election of 1994. They came to power in 1995, and they've kept it ever since then, which is quite remarkable.
One thing we should point out, just to do the arithmetic, the reason why we know the Republicans will control the Senate is that the best the Democrats can do is to get to 50-50. And with the election of George Walker Bush, it means that Dick Cheney, the vice president, breaks any tie in the Senate. So that's where we are now.
Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say that Mr. Schneider is going to be using the words irrational exuberance as a warning to the Republicans.
Yes.
I have a feeling. I think what we heard from Speaker Hastert and Trent Lott was some words of restraint, that even if the Republicans control all three of these institutions, there may be a certain degree of rational non-exuberance because of the narrowness.
Imagine the religious right. Imagine the gun owners. They're waiting for the Republicans to deliver, and for years they've been saying, but we need the White House. We need the White House. Now they have no excuse.
We have a race to call. The Senate race in the state of Nebraska goes to Ben Nelson, the Democrat. He defeats the Republican Don Stenberg. This means the Democrats hold on. This is the seat of retiring Senator Bob Kerrey. It is a hold, a retention, if you will, for the Democrats. We now have a Bill Nelson in the Senate from Florida and a Ben Nelson from Nebraska. You got that,
Yes,
Jeff?
and it means that the Democrats have at least 49 seats in the Senate, and if Debbie Stabenow beats Spencer Abraham in Michigan, the Senate will break 50-50, and Vice President Cheney will break the tie.
And we should say, we haven't mentioned Dick Cheney's name in the last few minutes. We are projecting, estimating, calling the next Vice President of the United States, 59-year-old Richard Bruce Cheney, born in the state of Nebraska, but grew up and hails now from the state of Wyoming. And he's been Secretary of Defense. He's been White House Chief of Staff. He knows Washington.
Which is why he's on the ticket. Because George Bush has never worked in Washington except through association with his father.
Let's go out to Nashville, Tennessee. Our senior White House correspondent John King is there beneath an umbrella. Bush, 271, the magic number, John.
Well, Bernie, the glum faces here in this crowd, much like Austin, Texas, the Hardy here waiting in the rain, and their cheers started to go up when we showed the gap closing in Florida, but then on the big screen behind us where they have been showing some of the network broadcasts tonight, including our own from time to time, when the election was called for Governor Bush, there were gasps of no and screams of no, the faces quite glum. The organizers of this event quickly turned off the news broadcast and put the music back on, and just a moment ago they announced that Alan Tipper Gore will be here about 15 minutes from now. No word from the Gore campaign yet. We've tried making a few phone calls on exactly what they plan to say, but we will hear from the Vice President, we're told, in about 15 minutes here. The atmosphere obviously quite depressing here. The Vice President himself had said this morning at 5 a.m. in Tampa that he thought it would come down to the state of Florida. As the results came in, a bit of a roller coaster, much like this entire night. The Vice President originally projected to win Florida, then obviously the state slipped away in the results, and barring some sort of legal challenge, it appears Al Gore has fallen just short, something many of his advisors worried about in the final few days. A man, the son of a legendary senator of this state, served 8 years in the House, 8 years in the Senate, 8 years as Vice President, was seemingly ready to step out of the shadow of not only his father, but also of Bill Clinton. Within the Gore campaign, already complaints that he was heard on the left from Ralph Nader, and on the right, if you will, among conservative Democrats, conservative elderly voters, by Bill Clinton's character problems. Others already questioning the Gore campaign strategy. You can see the faces here in Nashville tonight. Quite a depressing crowd here as they wait to hear from the Vice President. And the mood here has gone up and down all night. Right now, these people seem to be in shock as they sit in a very cold rain waiting to hear from Al Gore.
John, it's Jeff Greenfield. You know, it occurs to me that 30 years ago tonight, on election night, Al Gore Sr. lost the seat that he had held in Tennessee, and that apparently for much of Al Gore's life, maybe from birth, it was the parents' dream that he would ascend to the job that Al Gore Sr. had wanted and never could get to. From your own sense, losing this close, coming this far, after all the years that Al Gore had wanted to be president, my own suspicion is that this would be much worse a night than if it had been a sizable, early predictable loss. What's your sense of that?
Well, certainly in a night to question why the Vice President could not do what the President has done. For all the criticism of Bill Clinton, he was able to carry some states in the South. This state, Tennessee, twice. Arkansas, twice. Louisiana, Kentucky. Al Gore, painted by George W. Bush as a traditional liberal, not even able to carry all of the Dukakis states, with Oregon going to Governor Bush, or at least being in a lead for Governor Bush right now. Remarkable that a son of the South, a Tennessee senator who was a member of the Democratic Leadership Council, being painted as a liberal by Governor Bush and losing this election, losing his own state in the process, his own home state.